Hey guys, how's it going? Today I have and I'm gonna say it wrong, Emile Bertin replay for you featuring Rolkatsuki. Now, it's not a specifically special replay in most ways that you'd consider a replay special, but it's special because this is a very tier 7 heavy match, and Rolkatsuki has found themselves in a tier 5 division, so very, very under-tiered. But we're going to kind of see how to work around that, and you can already see that Rolkatsuki is being a bit more aggressive than you would standard procedure would call for when you're a low tier cruiser in a tier 7 heavy match. Now the only ships spotted downrange so far are New York and in Omaha, both tier 5, though there are some tier 6 aircraft flying around in the area that are spotting both Rolkatsuki's division mates and Rolkatsuki. There's a fire on that New York, and a farragut just got spotted off to the side. Now that's a pretty big threat, if he knows how to play. Rolkatsuki tries to launch a blind shot at him. Didn't really get it around the side of the island, but that's okay. While we kind of have a lull here, what's special about the Emile Bertin? And I'm going to say it about 6 different ways, so somebody can correct me in the comments. But what's special about it is it's a French cruiser that can go 40 knots without speed boost. So it's an extremely fast, pretty damn agile too, tier 5 light cruiser. And I say light because it's only armed with 155s. And they are kind of floaty arcs for 155s. They're not the very super accurate Russian 150. I keep saying 155s, they're 152s. My apologies, guys. They're not the super accurate Russian arcs that, you know, they'll hit your target as soon as you fire your guns. They tend to have a kind of float to them, but it actually hits the superstructure a lot better at closer ranges than Russian shells would, where they'd hit most of the armor. Ooh, that poor New York didn't get hit by that salvo. That's pretty sad. But right now, Rolkatsuki has to worry about that farragut. That's a pretty dangerous tier 6 destroyer in the right hands, and there's not a lot of support over here. Namely, they're not facing a lot of enemies, but there's the farragut, 3 kilometers away. Rolkatsuki squeezes shot off, barely misses their division mate. Division mate's getting right in there with that farragut and a Russian destroyer that can't really gunfight it. But thankfully, before that farragut can really start gunning down that Podvoisky, so somebody's going to yell at me really loudly for all my pronunciations in this game. But the Russian destroyer took out the farragut with torpedoes, so somebody wasn't expecting that. So New York on fire again, trying to get away from this little terror of a French cruiser and trying to get back to all his tier 7 teammates. And what I was talking about early on is how Rolkatsuki isn't just charging in complaining that, oh, they're bottom tier, they're not going to be able to do anything. They found sort of a weak flank, and they're actually making use of it. Now, you can't really do this in, say, the New York, because it's not fast enough to switch areas to somewhere where there's not a Scharnhorst, somewhere where there's not a Gneisenau or some other fast battleship charging it down. And if it gets locked in combat, it's not going to last long against one of those. But in that case, you could have teammates. But what Rolkatsuki has done is they have found themselves a very weak flank that isn't heavily defended. They've gone aggressive against the enemy team in the French cruiser way of, you know, staying in back and focusing down with high explosive firepower. And there's a fire that's going to stick on that poor New York as he gets hit with another 2,000 damage salvo. But they're being aggressive, and they've capped this. They've kind of prevented that New York, Omaha, and farragut from dominating this side of the map freely. And while they're not really pushing the base hard per se, they're definitely holding their own, and they're keeping the friendly team's cap points up as the friendly team works on the opposite point. So even though that the friendly team's point that they had captured early is getting capped thanks to Rolkatsuki's division's efforts over at sea, they're actually doing pretty well on points. and they won't be losing points now, or what, they won't be losing the point war since they have this cap. Now Rolkatsuki is going to start ignoring that Queen Elizabeth because the division mate and the kamikaze said that they'll go handle them, which is going to end up being a good old Japanese torpedo run on that poor tier 6 British battleship. So Rolkatsuki's now shifting their attention to the Leander. And what a lot of players don't realize is that French cruisers have armor piercing, and you can see Rolkatsuki just switch to it. And I say that because they're known for just spamming high explosive. But this Leander doesn't really know that. And it's going to hurt him. There's a light hit for 1,200. But if he's going to stay broadside to these 152s, he's not going to like the consequences, especially against his little light cruiser. There's another small hit. He's kind of getting chunked down, but he's not taking a huge amount of damage. Now that Indianapolis is showing a very nice broadside to a light cruiser that has armor piercing loaded. There's a 2,000 damage salvo to the Indy. And the problem is that Indy is very close to Rolkatsuki's division mates. And it's not good news for them because the Indy has very, very, very good radar for a tier 7. I should specify that. And there goes the kamikaze. The, I'm not going to pronounce its name, Russian destroyer is in a very bad spot against that guy. And if he gets hit one more time, he's not going to like the consequences of coming around the corner in front of that Indy. But the Indy just got slapped for 3,000 damage. The Podvoisky, or whatever the hell it is, got set on fire and killed. Now it's just down to killing this Omaha and the Indianapolis before they can get in cap. Omaha showing broadside. Armor piercing loaded. Will it do damage? 2 citadels. Very, very decent hit there. Even though they're 152s, the Omaha doesn't have a lot of health to begin with. Let's see, Miyoko way the hell out there. Scharnhorst we don't really want to deal with. Indianapolis, Omaha, we can definitely deal with those. There's that pesky Leander that we couldn't citadel earlier. You'd think he'd know we were here by now since we've been spotted for the past, I don't know, 5 minutes. There's 2,000 damage, or almost 2,000 damage off on him. He's firing back, but not doing too much. Looks like somebody, I think the Pensacola just smacked him around a little bit with high explosive. Sadly, Rolkatsuki's going to miss that salvo. Jeez, I can't really tell what those cruisers in sea really want to do. It's like they want to be aggressive, but they don't at the same time. They've definitely picked a fight in the wrong area because there's a Miyoko raining hell down on them and an Iron Duke just absolutely destroying their sides. The problem is Rolkatsuki's team is down on both ships and points. And that reset on the Omaha and the Indianapolis going down will definitely help that and get them the point game back. And the Colorado just sniped that Omaha from across the map. So that's quite useful and has definitely pulled the game back quite a bit for them. So there's 2 overly aggressive cruisers down. There's an Akatsuki and a very low health Miyoko back in base. The Atlanta took a little itty bitty hit from Rolkatsuki's guns. Rolkatsuki's going to try to squeeze a shot over this island. Will it land good? I'll take 4,000 damage, chunking that Atlanta for half of its remaining health. But will they squeeze in one more? Nope. The Atlanta's going to get away, at least from Rolkatsuki, on very low health. The more pressing concern is the Scharnhorst that's trying to push down the Colorado. Scharnhorst has torpedoes. Colorado does not, but that 4,000 damage might make it reconsider. Atlanta looks like he's going to be going down here pretty soon. 500 health. Either Rolkatsuki's going to get this or the friendly Miyoko will. Rolkatsuki fires just as the Atlanta disappears. Those looked like a decent shot. Looking good, and there he goes. 1 tier 7 cruiser down. Now we just have to worry about the Scharnhorst. He's awfully close for a French cruiser to consider a major threat, because the French cruiser spaced armor really only works when it can wiggle and try to avoid direct shots, I guess. It's hard to explain. If an enemy can really aim at you, they're going to citadel you if they're smart. But luckily that Scharnhorst didn't survive too long under the rain from that Colorado and the friendly Miyoko. so that's pretty useful. Now we're down to a pretty experienced Kaga player and an enemy destroyer. Now that enemy destroyer is a kamikaze that hasn't been spotted all game, but he was active. Unlike the friendly carrier, I forgot to say that the friendly carrier has been AFK all game. Never loaded in as far as I can tell, never launched a plane. So they've basically been down a carrier for the entire game, and he's just sitting there for points. Rolkatsuki just got spotted by said Kaga, who, like I said, pretty damn good player, and he definitely put up a fight in this match. But Kaga's also not a very fast carrier, and we did just spot the kamikaze. That's not a good situation because that kamikaze looks absolutely prepared to shotgun Rolkatsuki with torpedoes. Come on, we're going to need another fire on that Kaga so we can stop launching planes. And there's the kamikaze. Will he be dropping torpedoes? Wait, where's the torpedoes? Well, that's interesting. The kamikaze has gone AFK. Or has disconnected. I think it's AFK because his guns aren't set to like a starting position. So yeah. Torpedoes away. And destroyer down. And there's the Confederate award. Oh boy. So now we just have to deal with this Kaga. Something about the Emile Bertin? Not the best anti-aircraft. Might as well just be a fireworks show around the ship. And you can see Rolkatsuki's doing their best to try to avoid these planes because they're definitely not going to shoot down any of them. Did a good job avoiding that torpedo salvo, and the fire that Rolkatsuki set finished off the Kaga. Probably the biggest threat on the enemy team. So very, very good job of taking the weak flank and slowly pushing their advantage into the enemy base, forcing the Indianapolis and the Omaha out of position in order to take a cap zone, and eventually turning around the game that wasn't looking amazing in the beginning to something that was fairly reasonable and dominating with a tier 5 cruiser in a tier 7 match. So very good job to Rolkatsuki. Going into the end screens shows Rolkatsuki did 100,000 damage, earning that Confederate award, almost 6,000 experience earned, 3 ships destroyed, 140 shell hits, and 1 torpedo hit on that poor AFK kamikaze. Top of the team in a bottom tier match, always an impressive thing to brag about. And definitely something to wave around when there was that many tier 7s in a match and an AFK carrier, especially on a ship that doesn't have any anti-aircraft to begin with. So 1800 base experience definitely pulling a lot of weight, even though I guess the carrier being absent helped that because they weren't there to suck up any of the experience. But what I really wanted to point out was that Rolkatsuki did almost a third of their damage with armor piercing, a third of their damage with high explosive, and a third of their damage with fires. They were very versatile with their shell choice, which is something that really helps with the upper tier French cruisers, especially when they get the larger guns like on the Henri, because they can just decimate other cruisers and even battleships that expect you to sit there and spam high explosive. So Rolkatsuki doing a very good job of showing the versatility of the French cruisers both for ammunition types and how to push your advantage and play the side of the game when you're in a bottom tier match in a pretty fragile cruiser. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day out there and good luck.